Shots are listening over.
What you heard right behind you were the sound of Bofors guns directly targeting the top of Tiger Hills, the prelude to the final assault. Also going on simultaneously are multi-barrel rocket launchers also attacking the same positions on Tiger Hills.
At the moment we are firing two of them. They can fire 40.
At the moment we are running for cover. We just had a shell land very close to us. I doubt if you were able to see anything. There was another shell.
Careful, careful.
Now we really are going into the bunker.
I just hope so, sir. I just hope so, sir. Koi ghir gaya to nothing is going to be left here.
Hello, listen Shivnath, I'm calling from a bunker. I can't speak. Quickly take down the details.
This underwire, sir.
We launched multi-barrel rocket launcher attack in addition to the direct firing by Bofors guns.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hello?
It's the pattern of firing which the Pakis are firing. You can't hear any small arms, and our RTA is also stopped. That means we're gone in, and whatever we're firing is going beyond the Tiger Hill. That means our troops are there on top.
300, 400 तो नहीं होगा.
नहीं. Cheers.
Cheers to Tiger and to the press.
After 11 hours of near continuous fighting and heavy exchange of fire, Tiger Hills finally looks like it belongs to India once again. And with this recovery, the Indian troops hope to regain control of the Dras sector almost immediately. It truly is the dawn of a new day. With Ajmal Jami, Barkha.
This was the year 1999. India was showing patriotism. People from all over the country, from every nook and corner of the country, was standing behind the Indian army to give them support. What was taking place in the country during that time? It was the Kargil incursion. Terrorists had sneaked into the Indian borders. They had come over into the Indian territory and they were fighting the Indian army. The Indian army retaliated. The Indian army had its own plans of defeating the enemy. Amongst the ones who was engaged in the battle was a man named Major Padmapani Acharya. Major Padmapani Acharya, who belongs to Hyderabad, was leading a battalion against the terrorists. Major Padmapani Acharya was very well aware that they did not have the kind of arms and ammunition that the enemy was having. But still, he chose to fight. He fought and he died. Days before he died in the battle, he wrote a letter to his family in Hyderabad, his mother Vimala Acharya, his father Jagannath Acharya, and his wife Charulata, saying that he is in the battle, and in the battle one has to show valor and one has to fight. That was his duty. When one joins the army, friends, one is quite aware of what lies in store for them. All the training that one undergoes is for one particular purpose. When the need arises, when there is a battle, when there is war, one has to rise to the occasion and be willing to die for one's own country. The country will matter most. When you enroll yourself in the army, you have to serve the purpose for which you enrolled in the army. Dear friends, my name is Chilkuri Sushil Rao and I am a journalist. I work for a national newspaper now, and earlier in 1999 I was working for another newspaper. At that time, when Major Padmapani Acharya died, his body was brought to Hastinapur in Hyderabad, and I saw a long queue of people waiting to have a glimpse of his body. I spoke to his mother, I spoke to his father, They were grieving, but they were very proud that their son had laid down his life for the sake of the country. Thousands of people attended his last rites. Major Padmapani Acharya did what he wanted to do, to fight for his country. He fulfilled his purpose as an army officer. Friends, I would like to talk to you about one great soldier from the Bible, a man who had a passion to serve God, a man who was driven by God's love to do something for his own people. That man was born for a purpose, he lived for a purpose, and he achieved his purpose in life. I'm talking to you about Moses. If you look at the book of Exodus and read the first 2 chapters, you will see that Moses was born. And at this time when Moses was born, Pharaoh had a fear in his mind. He wondered what would happen if the population of the Israelites, or at that time as they were called, the Hebrews, increased. And he gave a command. He said, every male child in this land born of the Hebrews should be put to death. There was a man from the clan of Levi, and he had 2 children, and 1 more child was born to him. Moses was born, but at that time the order was that all children should be killed. It was definitely a very good thing in the family of a newborn baby, the elder brother and the elder sister taking care of this little child. But this child was 3 months old, and probably he started crying, and you know how a child will cry. Anybody would want to stop and see why the child is crying. But the family was disturbed a bit because the elder brother, the elder sister, they were trying to take care of him, including the parents, but this boy was crying. So the family got a brilliant idea. A brilliant idea in the sense that they thought they could save the life of Moses by doing something. So they took him outside to the river Nile, they put him in a basket, and they left him in the river. It was to be certain death. But that is not what the family hoped for. The family had a very great hope. And just then, the Pharaoh's daughter came there. She noticed the basket, asked that the child be brought out, and she goes and takes care of the baby until he becomes a youth. But immediately after drawing the baby out of the water, she asks the girl who had come to visit her to find a nurse who would take care of the baby. Now what happened here? Moses was born. Moses was born for a purpose. God had a purpose for his life. He was born at the right time and for a right purpose. But what was happening here? There was death all around. But in the midst of all this, God protected Moses. And Moses, who was supposed to have been killed, actually grows up in the palace of the Pharaoh. Pharaoh who actually wants all the children to be killed. Moses grows up in the palace, but his heart is not like a prince. His heart is not like an Egyptian prince. His heart beats for the people of the Hebrew nation, because God had planned a separate nation and had given a promise to Abraham that these people would become a nation. Then what was Moses supposed to do? Moses was a soldier of the Lord. His heart beat for the Lord. So out he goes, surveys the land and sees what's happening here and there, and he sees some people fight. And during the course of time, Moses notices that a soldier or somebody who's above all the labor, he kills a Hebrew person. Moses is annoyed. Moses is angry. Moses feels he has to do something. Moses also is aware of the fact that he is a prince, but his heart, as I said, beats for the Hebrew people. He catches hold of the person who's in charge of the labor, you could call him an Egyptian soldier, and he kills him. But after that, word is out that Moses is a murderer, and Pharaoh definitely is looking for him. Moses flees from that country. Moses is 40 years old when he leaves this nation. Then what happened? What happened to the purpose of his life? Why did God save his life when he was supposed to drown in the river Nile? Moses was supposed to be murdered by Pharaoh's men. That doesn't happen. And here is Moses, all of 40 years old. He wants to do something for his people. He kills an Egyptian, but now he's a wanted man and he flees the country. What happened to the purpose of his life? At 40 years old, he goes to the land of Midian. There he meets his wife and he settles down. Moses is very happy settling down. His father-in-law Jethro has a lot of sheep to be taken care of, goats and everything, and he's a rich man. So after 40 years, Moses is there, he's settled, he's got a family, he's got a wife, he's got a good job, everything is going good for him. For 40 years, Moses feels settled in life. But when he's 80 years old, something happens. He takes the sheep for feeding onto the mountains, and there amongst the mountains is one particular mountain called the mountain of Horeb. That is the mountain of God. As we read in the Bible, as we read in God's word, in the book of Exodus, Moses is drawn towards this mount of Horeb, and there he steps in and he looks at a very strange thing happening there. You all know the story of the burning bush. Moses is zapped. He's taken aback. He stares at the fire. The fire is there, but it is not burning the bush away. Something is happening. And from there he hears the voice of the Lord. And there's an interesting conversation that happens between God and Moses. God says, I'm not quoting exactly the conversation that took place between God and Moses. The substance of it is, God says, Moses, I have a job for you. Moses is taken aback. He says, kindly tell me your name. What's your name? Till that time, the name of God had not been revealed. And God tells Moses, I am who I am. God says, go to your people, you have to deliver them. Moses wants to give an excuse and he says, if they ask me what your name is, what should I tell? And that is why God tells him his name. And then he gives all kinds of excuses saying, see, you know that I cannot speak well. I'm not quite comfortable. Then God says, see, I've already made an arrangement. Your brother has already started from there. This long conversation takes place, but it ends abruptly. But finally we see that for every question that Moses had, God had a perfect answer. Because Moses was in the perfect will of God. When Moses was born, God protected him. When Moses at 40 years old commits a crime in Egypt and runs away, God is the one who takes care of him and settles him in a different country. And now Moses is 80 years old. Does anyone give an assignment at 80 years old? Nowadays, as we see in our companies, there are contracts, 3-year contracts. Then after that you have to search for a job. Okay, there's nothing permanent really. We're all hopping jobs trying to get into one job or the other. And by 60 or 65 or 58 or 56, whatever the age is, one retires. At 80 years, Moses definitely was a retired man taking care of his flock. And God says, man, I've got a mission for you. And here this man says, I'm sorry, I'm not going. I'm not convinced. But God convinces Moses, and at 80 years, he starts to Egypt. And that is where the mighty hand of God prevails against the Egyptians. Moses, who gives an excuse saying, I cannot speak, has his brother Aaron speaking on his behalf. They approach Pharaoh with boldness and say, we want this people to be left. We as a nation want to go for 3 days and worship our God. Pharaoh actually scoffs at the idea. But Moses says, we have to go. We have to go. Pharaoh says, you cannot go. And the Hebrews are burdened with more work. Anyone in Moses' situation would have felt very disheartened, because here was God who sent him with a plan, who sent him with a purpose, and who sent him with an assurance saying that I will see that Pharaoh releases all the people. But that's not what is happening. Moses doesn't give up. God has a plan. God has a plan for everybody's life, and God had a plan for the people of the Hebrew nation, a nation that was yet to be born, but I would like to refer to it as nation. And God had a plan for Moses. Friends, God has a plan for you and me also. God is a loving God. We are not here by accident. We are not here by accident. We are here for a purpose made by God to be born right at this time. God has a plan for your life and my life. Just when you think, I've settled down in life and what else can I do? Perhaps that is the time that God has put an idea in your mind about how you can serve Him. Moses, though he resisted the idea, did go. And what happened? After several instances where Egypt is hit by plagues, there comes a situation when the nation says, Egypt says, and Pharaoh says, go, leave us and go. God is with them. And as Moses leads the people out of the nation, what does he come across? There is the Red Sea. How can he even think of going forward? And he looks behind, and there is the Egyptian army pursuing them. You have the sea in front of you, and you have the soldiers behind you. You are caught. You are caught in a situation where it is death either way. It is trouble either way. But God, the mighty God whom we believe in, has a plan for every situation. Moses cries out to God and says, God, what should I be doing? Interestingly, God says, you do. What is that you have in your hand? A stick. God tells him something to do, and the Red Sea parts, and the people of Israel go to the other side, whereas the Egyptians who follow them are drowned. Moses leads the people out of Egypt, and his purpose is served there to a certain extent. He does not enter the land, the promised land, but he does take them from where he can see it. And in the process of taking it, the nation there, God gives him the 10 commandments. And God provides them water in the desert, food in the desert. That is a loving God. When God has a plan for you, God will fulfill it. Only trust in the Lord. Friends, as I said, you're not here by accident. even before God created this universe, He had you in mind. God desired that you should be born at this time and for a particular purpose. This purpose God will tell you when you draw near to God. On the mountain of God, Moses drew near to God, and he noticed that God was trying to tell him something. All of you are settled in life, settling in life, comfortable in life. You have different plans altogether perhaps. There's a future ahead of you. But getting into a job or completing certain studies is not just the only thing that God has in mind for you. He has a bigger purpose. May the Lord fulfill His purpose in your life, and may you be a blessing to many, because you were born for this time and you were born for a purpose. The Lord bless you all.